Now he's up into constellations in verses 31 to 33. Look at the constellations. The Pleiades, the Orion, the Mazzaroth, the Bear. Do you know the ordinances of heaven? Can you establish their rule on the earth? You really should go online and look at some of these absolutely mind-boggling little YouTube videos that take you from Earth going at the speed of light until you're 500 billion years out there. And what they know now. I just saw on the internet yesterday that they're going to now map the edges of the universe. I said, whoa, really? That's clever. But I'm impressed. I mean, I'm going out there with them as far as I can go with the Hubble telescope and letting God be God. The heavens are telling the glory of God, and more and more and more as we go farther and farther out there. So he's trying to say to Job, you don't know anything. You don't know anything. Earth and sea and dawn and snow and hail and constellations and rain. The upshot of it all, Job, you don't know anything. How in the world can you call me into question when I know everything about everything and I run the world according to all of my infinite knowledge and wisdom? And you might think, oh, but we're 21st century people. Oh, really? We have advanced so far in our catching up to God. I don't think so. You take the last 200 years of scientific discovery, what does that amount to? Sand pails of water, salt water, hauled up from the ocean of God's wisdom and dumped into a little hole on the beach while the tide is coming in. It's not impressive. I hope when you look at God and then look at science, I hope you are not wowed here and bored here. If you are, you're blind. That is ridiculous. This is impressive. God is impressive. He made it all. He knows it all. He runs it all. He understands everything about it. Over here, you got sand pails of salt water being poured in a little hole on the beach while the tide of God's wisdom is coming in. You better be impressed with the ocean, because science is as nothing by comparison. And that's what God's trying to say to Job. Job, all these scientific new atheists, the Dawkins and the Hitchens and the Harrisons, they don't know anything. They don't know anything. They seem so impressive when you're not comparing them with the right person. Now, he comes to the world of animals. You would think, really? You're going to go to the world of animals? Yeah, I'm going to go to the world of animals. Chapter 38, verses 39 to 41, he asked Job about the lions and the birds. Who provides for the raven its prey, and when its young ones cry to God and wander about for lack of food? You do that, Job? Do you give the ravens their food? Chapter 39, verses 1 to 4, he talks about the birth of the young. Do you know when the mountain goats bring forth? Do you observe the calving of the hinds? You don't, Job. You don't know how they do that. They just do that without any of your help at all. I think the point here is, when a man sees a work of God like suffering, he should remember it has connections to 10,000 realities he does not know. God is doing 10,000 things in your life at this moment. At this moment. He's doing 10,000 things, not one thing. And when you suffer or your loved one suffers, you see one or two or three things, maybe 10. You don't see millions of things flowing into it, millions of things flowing out of it. That's the feeling he's trying to create. Verses 5 to 8. What about the wild ass, Job? Who has let the wild ass go free? What about the wild ox in verses 9 to 12? You don't know how to bind him or use him. He's mine. What about the stupid ostrich? Verses 13 to 18. She walks away from her eggs. She treats her young cruelly. Who made her forget wisdom? I do. When you see stupid things in the world, Lord, Job, I did that. I'm not taken off guard by the ostrich. The ostrich behavior is my idea. Go to the ostrich, oh fool, and learn something. Like, go to the ant, thou sluggard, consider her ways and be wise. Go to the raven, go to the lily, go to the ostrich. The camel drinks a lot before he heads into the desert. Learn things. All these animals, foolish, useless, some of them, but not the war horse. Verses 19 to 25, do you give him his might? Do you clothe his neck with strength? What about the hawk? Verses 26 to 30. Is it by your wisdom that the hawk soars and spreads his wings toward the south? Is it at your command that the eagle mounts up and makes his nest on high? So, prey of lions, birth of mountain goats, freedom of the wild ass, insubordination of the wild ox, stupidity of the ostrich, the might of the war horse, flight of the hawk and the eagle. The upshot of all this is, Job, you don't understand any of this. You don't know how this works. This is all something outside of your ken, and I do it. I understand everything. We were talking last night over at IHOP about squirrels. I have a desk in my study and a window to my left. I can see the city, and there's 2 trees. And I've watched the trees over the last 15 years meet. And this was the first season when the 2 branches touched. You plant a tree. I planted this one tree, and it has grown for 15 years. And I look out every season, and I say, someday the 2 trees' branches are going to touch. But in the meantime, guess what? Squirrels launch themselves between these trees. And I watch them. Now, here's the deal. This little squirrel never went to school. He didn't learn anything about every force has an opposite counter force. And he's sitting on this branch, and somehow he's calculating how thin this branch is so that when he pushes off of this branch, he knows this branch is going to go backward. Like when you jump off a raft in the water, push and you flop on your belly because the raft went and you went nowhere. So why don't these squirrels flop on their belly? Who told them this branch is now big enough and your muscles must twitch exactly this much, and that little branch over there is good enough to hold you? He grabs on and goes, woo, woo, woo. Where did that come from? That's the point. You don't have a clue where that came from, Mr. Scientist.